Thank you very much for making the time to join me here on stage. What we're going to talk about today is how Domino Data Lab solves the cross-region riddle of how to deal with a lot of international regulations and also potentially saving you some money in the process. On the agenda for the next 14 and a half minutes, we're going to talk very briefly about what Domino does, what the motivation is for why we try and enable cross-region, scaling your MLOps games across those regions, and then how we approach that inside of Domino. So for those of you who are not familiar with Domino Data Lab, what we provide our customers is a single platform unifying data science work across their organization. That means that data scientists are able to self-service themselves to get access to the compute resources that they need, the data that they need from across the organization without having to trouble DevOps or additional IT folks for their time. In addition to that, we provide tools that enable collaboration across teams. So if you write something once, other teams can also benefit from your creations without having to reinvent the wheel. We enable them once a model is in existence to be deployed as an API, again, without having to trouble IT or without having to have data scientists waste time learning how to become DevOps people for deployment. Finally, when the model is actually in deployment, we help organizations avoid mess-ups by monitoring how well the model is working, as well as monitoring the data to ensure that the model is still valid in analyzing the data. So why do we care about hybrid and cross-region deployments of your models and development? First and foremost, 140 countries around the world instituted data governance, data sovereignty and data privacy rules over the last 5 years. That means that if you have private data or any other sensitive data sources that are based in one country, they cannot leave that country even if you technically own that data. In addition to that, addressing that problem can be very expensive. You may need to stand up data centers, you may need to stand up new resources in those countries, which is why AWS is so great, because they can help you save money when you have to deal with that data. In addition, some regions are also imposing reliability and reliability laws that require organizations to have the ability to keep their services and data available no matter where they are, and no matter like whether they're on cloud or on-prem, and that is a critical thing that cross-region deployments can help you alleviate and address. The last element is something that we're all here for, and that deals with data modernization. The reality is that a lot of organizations are still very much tied to on-prem, and with the Nexus solution, we can provide them with a quick way to deploy solutions to the cloud without having to learn anything about how to do cloud. So as an example, we will meet our great Domino customer, Natalya. Totally fictitious person, but at the same time, very much in line with one of our ideal personas. She's a leader of a data science team based in Germany. And her team recently scored a major success for her organization. She was able to deploy a data science model to production that predicts which patients are right for her health science, life science organization's study for some medicine. Natalya did such a good job with that model that her company decided to deploy that model across the company. So how does Natalya deal with that? Of course, she turns to Domino. What she's asked to do is to still foster collaboration, scale her model to work on multiple studies across the world, take her code and have it scale or be adapted to multiple locations across the world. In addition to that, she also needs to work with each one of the local teams to address the local data privacy and sovereignty rules and ensure that none of them are violated as they deploy the model. Inside of the organization, she needs to ensure that people in the US may not access data that's in Korea, and people in Germany cannot access data in other countries. So governance is critical. And if that wasn't a big enough headache, she also needs to ensure that the company doesn't spend too much money on this and at the same time sees good results. So how do we approach that? Her current installation of the Domino platform that does all the cool things like collaboration and self-service and deployment is based in Germany in the AWS zone in Frankfurt. That is what we will call a control plane. That is where most of the work will be done and where we will manage the code, manage access, manage configuration. But at that point, she decides that the first region and the first area with team within her company that she's going to involve is the one based in South Korea. Luckily, there's an AWS region there. The team there is going to deploy a Nexus data plane, which is a lighter weight version of the Domino platform, able to run the processing portion of our platform. The team there loads the data to its own repository in S3, again, local to South Korea. Now, when she brings the team to work with her inside of the main Domino platform, they can then look at the algorithm, read it, adapt it, work on it, and at that point, when they want to run it on their local data, all they need to do is to click a button and the algorithm ships over to the South Korean installation. Better yet, everything runs local in that location. It runs on S3, it gets provisioned its own machines, whether they need GPUs, don't need GPUs, it all runs local over there. The next country she involves is in the US. The US team actually has a very robust on-prem setup, one that uses an NVIDIA DGX system, very capable setup. They use local storage there, and despite it being on-prem, Domino can still connect and run workloads, run the same algorithms there locally in that location. Better yet, because none of the other locations have as robust a setup, other people from South Korea, for example, if they do generic research, they can actually go and use that location and benefit from its capabilities. The last location that she's bringing online is the one based in Italy. This one actually has an additional data privacy requirement. They want their users to connect through the VPN. Still not a problem. Users log into the control plane based in Germany. They select to run the work in Italy, and just like that, if they're connected to the VPN, they can access their local instance and work on it. Worth noting that each one of those executions can be an interactive workflow, which I will show you how that looks in a second, but also scheduled jobs that can run there locally. Now, how does Domino look like? In Domino, all of the work is organized around projects, and each project is a combination of the data that's being processed, files, and also the team that's working on it. If you're not part of the project, you cannot access it, you cannot work with it. Once a user wants to start working with the data, they have the choice of using any one of the many IDEs or development environment that we offer. You can even use closed source tools like SAS or MATLAB or Stata. So each data scientist can choose the tool that works for them. On top of that, the user actually can provision how robust a container or environment they need for their work. So if it's not a very complicated deep learning effort, they can actually use a very small one core instance that costs the company very little money, or they can go big and have a machine with 120 cores and multiple GPUs, which can be very expensive, but can get them the answers they need very fast. What's worth noting here, and this is the Nexus magic, is that they can use which location the workload will run at, whether it's on AWS or maybe using an on-premises cluster. And that is how complex it gets. They just choose where to run, and there it will be. Now, since they chose a specific location in the US on AWS, they also get to see what data sources they have access to. This data source is actually on AWS. It's an attached data volume. They can also know which data from that location they cannot access, and that's data that is local to other instances. Now, if you look at it, Domino looks virtually the same but different in each location. So the team in Frankfurt uses Jupyter Lab. They connect to an Amazon RDS location, and they use that amount of compute. The team in Korea, on the other hand, uses a very robust setup, and that one runs on AWS over there, while the team in Milan uses MATLAB running inside of Domino, and they use it with a 16-core machine, but with GPUs. How difficult is it for a company to add Nexus location? It's a matter of setting up an EKS cluster in that AWS region. You configure it with a Helm chart, so it's a relatively easy installation. And then you tell the control plane, the main Domino Data Lab installation, what's available at that location. And at that point, you're ready to go. Why to do that with AWS? Primarily because we love AWS, but we also have very deep integrations with data sources on AWS. If you're on Redshift, if you are on other AWS data sources, we can use them, and data scientists can easily connect to them without additional configuration. Additionally, we run natively on EKS and use it also to scale to clusters if your data scientists need them, and again, that's with a click of a button. Models can be deployed to SageMaker also very easily as containers. And finally, and most easily, you can buy Domino using your EDP on the AWS Marketplace. So in summary, Domino provides you with a single machine learning operations, AI and ML platform that can work for your entire team no matter where it is. We take on sprawl and we will win. The platform can run seamlessly across regions. It simplifies companies' compliance with things like data governance and privacy rules. And we natively run on AWS, bringing your models much more quickly into production. And this is it. I'm on time also. I have 24 seconds. I'll be happy to talk to you and answer any questions you may have, or come visit us on our booth, which is directly off this path. Thank you very much.